Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another therapist led webinar from Positivity. My name is Shatadeepa, and I am the in house psychologist and ops executive at Positivity. And I welcome all of you in today's discussion. It is called Can AI Manipulate Our Psyche? Now, there's a lot of mysticism around what AI can do or cannot do. The whole word artificial intelligence kind of gives away that how far it is mimicking our intelligence, human intelligence. So is it really mimicking and only limited to that? Or is it something which is evolving to almost replicate human intelligence, replace human intelligence? There's a lot of questions around it. And more so, being a mental health organization, our focus is on protecting mental well-being in the AI era. Now, we have developed a lot of dependence or coexistence with AI so far, be it academics, work, our day-to-day lives, and any questions that come to our mind, we ask AI. We share a lot of data, we discuss it like as if it's just our friend. So it is also storing a lot of data, which is very personal, and it is filtering and it is using that algorithm to really give us a lot of information which might suit our needs. Now, in that case, does it become authentic? Should we continue to just depend on it? Then if we do continue to depend on it, then where is our own authenticity, our own self-reliance on our judgment, our creativity? Are we even allowing ourselves the space to be vulnerable, trying and doing the error and then figuring it out, or just blindly going by what AI is suggesting and then slowly believing that all these suggestions are my own? So we will learn all of these discussions and insights and how to balance this situation much better from our expert today, who is Ms. Jigisha Kadam. She's a counseling psychologist with several years of experience in human behavior, behavioral therapy, addiction counseling, relationship counseling, self-development, and a lot of family and couple work that she does in with the armed forces as well. I welcome you, Jigisha, to join us once again and to enlighten us on this very raging topic. So, without further ado, I would request you to get started.
Hey, good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd really like to thank Shwetadeepa for bringing us together here today, and a heartfelt appreciation to the entire team of Positivity for creating a space like this, where conversations are not just about information, but they are more about awareness, reflection, and growth. Also, spaces like these, platforms like these, are very rare and honestly very necessary in the world we are living in today. And like she has already introduced me, but still, hello, I am Miss Jigisha Kadam, and I come from a background in psychology and education. And a large part of my work revolves around understanding human behavior, like how we think, how we feel, and more importantly, how our environment slowly shapes both of these without us even realizing it. And over a period of time, I've worked closely with students, young adults, and even professionals, observing the patterns that are becoming increasingly common, like patterns of distraction, dependency, emotional overwhelm, and a constant need for stimulation. And this led me to deeply explore a topic that is now central to our lives, that is internet addiction. So that is why when I was studying psychology in my master's, I decided to do a thesis on this. And back in time, whether internet addiction is a disorder or not was a debatable topic, and we were studying more about it. So, when we hear the word addiction, we often imagine something that is more extreme, like something that is visible, something alarming. But internet addiction doesn't look like that. In everyday life, it may look like you checking your phone without even realizing why you're doing it in the first place, or opening an app and forgetting what you came for,
Right.
or simply feeling like restless when there is silence in the room, when you don't have anybody to talk to, or when you're simply waiting in a lobby, you need your phone to keep yourself busy or engaged, else you feel very awkward, or reaching out for distraction the moment something discomfort appears nearby. and most importantly, feeling more at ease in the digital world than in the real one. To give you a simple example to clear this common misconception that we often think that addiction is about how many hours you spend on a device, but that's not truly like entirely true, because imagine a corporate professional. They spend about 8 to 10 hours on a laptop. They're constantly working, attending meetings, sending emails. Now, technically, that's a very high screen time for everyday usage. But if you ask yourself if their laptop is taken away for a day, what will happen? They might feel inconvenience, or there must be some sort of frustration in their mind because the work is pending. But at emotional level, if you see, they can still regulate themselves, they can still function, they don't lose control, and most of the times they must be happy only that for a day the device is off. Now compare this with a child who uses a phone for just 2 to 3 hours a day. On the surface level, it looks like that's not much of a screen time, isn't it? But if you observe the response when the phone is taken away, the child may cry intensely, they become irritable, they feel restless, they struggle to calm down. Now, if you pause and think about the situation, because nowadays I also witness this in a lot of parties, a lot of mothers help or keep their child engaged by giving them a phone because they're not disturbing them for that moment. Now, between that corporate professional and this child, who is showing signs of dependence? So the person using a laptop for say 10 hours or the child using a phone for 2 3 hours, what is the key difference? So here we can see that addiction is not defined by duration. It is defined by loss of control, emotional dependence, and inability to regulate without the stimulus. So these are all called as the withdrawal symptoms. And whenever we talk about addiction, every addiction comes with a withdrawal symptom. So the corporate professional is using the device here as a tool, whereas the child is experiencing it as a source of emotional regulation. And
Right.
that's exactly why in psychology, we don't just measure the usage, we observe the behavior, we observe a reaction, also, we observe the emotional response that they give. So next time when we look at the screen, so instead of asking us how long are we using it, because most of us usually set screen times to check whether they're using the phone a lot or not. But we must ask ourselves that how do we respond when it is taken away from us? That emotional response is very important. That response tells you everything. Now, in my work and research, one insight that stood out very strongly was that people are not addicted to the internet itself. They are addicted to the feeling that it gives them. The feeling of being occupied, being distracted, being validated, and being understood. Suppose you are having a difficult day and maybe something didn't go right with you. Maybe someone didn't understand you. So, what you'll do, you'll pick up your phone and within seconds you start scrolling, you're watching something, you're reading, you're engaging, and slowly your emotional state is going to shift. Not because the problem is solved, but because your attention has moved. Now imagine something even more powerful than scrolling, something that doesn't just distract you, but something that responds to you, understands your words, matches your tone, and engages with your thoughts. That's where we are today. The internet was already influencing us. But now with AI, we have entered a space where technology doesn't just show content, it interacts with your mind. And that brings us to our today's topic, that is, can AI manipulate your psyche? But I want to reframe it slightly, not just can it manipulate, but how is it already influencing the way we think, we feel, and behave? And are we even aware of it? So, before we go further, I want to take a second and let me share my screen with you all. I hope the screen is visible. Now, tell me, when was the last time you truly felt understood by a person and not a device? Because that one answer sets the tone for the entire thing that we are going to discuss today. So today, what I want you to do is not just present some information, but I want to take you through a journey of understanding. We are going to explore how AI interacts with human psychology, and not in a technical sense, but in a deeply human and relatable way. We'll look at the psychological tactics that are embedded in the system these days, the subtle ways in which they engage you, they hold your attention, and even sometimes shape your responses. We'll talk about manipulation, but not the dramatic kind of manipulation that we see in the series or movies, or the way we imagine it, not the type of control, not forcefully, but the quiet, almost invisible ways in which influence happens over a period of time. And most importantly, we'll spend time understanding how to protect ourselves, not by avoiding technology, but by becoming more aware, more conscious, and more in control of how we use it. Because at the end of the day, this is not about AI. This is about your attention, your emotions, your decisions, and how all of these can be shaped without you even noticing it. So let's begin with the topic, not with any sort of fear or judgment, but with a lot of curiosity. Let's understand how something that is designed to help us can also begin to influence us. Right. So we'll start with the AI and the psychological tactics. It's the very important part of today's interaction. How AI is going to interact with your psychology, not just what it tells you, but how it quietly starts shaping your thinking, your decisions, and even your habits. So when we look at AI from outside, it feels like a tool, isn't it? So you ask a question, you get an answer. Simple. But beneath that simplicity, there are multiple psychological processes at play. Processes that are not new to us, but are now being used in a very refined and scaled way. Let's start with something very fundamental. Every time you interact with AI, you are not just asking a question. You are, in a way, revealing a part of your pattern. So, what are these patterns? You're revealing your tone, timing, during what time of the day maybe you are wanting that information, or experiencing some sort of emotions, your concerns, and a repetition in this pattern. Now, example, imagine someone who frequently asks AI, am I doing the right thing? Or what if I mess this up? Or can you tell me what should I do in this situation? So over a period of time, what will happen? A pattern of uncertainty and reassurance seeking becomes visible. Now the responses naturally begin to align with that pattern. They become more structured guidance, more reassurance, and more clarity, because now it is studying you. And slowly the interaction will start feeling as if it is tailor made for you. And you will feel like, okay, this is the place where it understands me. But what's actually happening is not understanding in a human sense. It's basically a pattern recognition. And when patterns are recognized consistently, they can also be reinforced. So, let me give you a very everyday example, something all of us must have experienced. Have you ever received a notification on your phone like these? Your favorite food is waiting for you, or there are only a few items left in your cart, or hurry on because the deal is ending in 2 hours, maybe from apps like Swiggy, Zomato, or Amazon. Now think about this honestly. Were you even planning to order food or shop at that moment? So most of the times the answer is no. But what happens next? You click on the notification, you open the app just to check, and somehow you end up ordering or buying something. So ask yourself, did you really need that item? Or did something trigger you to buy that item? So this is where user interface design meets psychology. So this was a part when I became a psychologist, I was exploring options wherein psychologists can work. So UI UX designer is one of the fields wherein they hire psychologists because these platforms are not randomly sending messages. They are carefully designed. They're carefully designed to grab your attention, to create urgency and make you feel like you might miss out. And how are they able to understand this? Because they're playing with the human psychology. If you observe these apps or notifications clearly, they are designed in a way with a pop of color, bright notifications, catchy lines, emojis. Now, your brain is naturally drawn to the novelty, color, the movement that is happening on the screen. So, even if you're doing something else, your attention is going to shift. Then comes the fear of missing out. That is, only two items are left, or offer is ending soon. Now your brain starts thinking, what if I miss this opportunity? So even if you didn't want it before, now it feels extremely important. Now instead of asking, do I actually need this, your brain asks you, should I grab this before this is gone? Are you seeing the shift in the thought process from need based thinking to urgency based reaction? Next step, you're going to click, you order it, and you get that small dopamine hit in your mind. The momentary feeling of satisfaction, there is a reward and excitement that you've ordered something, and your brain is going to remember that. So, next time when the same thing or same notification pops up, you will feel less resistance and you will keep on doing the same thing again and again. Now think about the last time you ordered food randomly. You weren't hungry, but you saw a notification, you opened the app, you browsed, and suddenly you felt like eating something because the screen is so bright and beautifully designed. So, was it hunger or was it a suggestion that was turning into desire? This is really important because this is exactly how psychology is used in designing. Not to force you, but to nudge you a little. And the more you respond to these nudges, the stronger they become. So the next time you get a notification like your cart is waiting, or you have to pause and ask yourself, was I really missing this item? Or was the app reminding me to feel like I was missing this? That one question can bring that control back instantly. Now that you've understood that how it subtly manipulates us to do something, let's move to something even more subtle. AI is designed to make interactions. Okay. What sort of interactions? It makes interactions smooth, it makes them efficient and satisfying. Because the easier something feels, the more likely you are to come back to it, isn't it? Let's take another example. So, suppose you have a doubt. Okay. What would you do? You would think about it, maybe you research about it, you compare it to sources or take time to understand. Now, what do? We simply ask once, you get a clean and structured answer instantly. How does it feel? It feels clearer, it feels like the work has been done faster, better. So, what happens next? Next time, you don't even consider other options. The first thing that you're going to return to is the AI. Now, let's go back in time. Think about your school days. There was a time when we were told to memorize all formulas, right? Learn definitions by heart or remember them when you never know when you will be needing them or they'll be useful, isn't it? Because we didn't carry books everywhere. So, what did we do at that time? We trained our mind, we trained our memory, we spent hours and hours revising equations, repeating definitions, mentally storing the information, and practicing and recalling everything under pressure. Because back then, access to information was very limited. So, if you didn't remember it, you simply didn't have it. Right. Now, imagine a student preparing for exam. in earlier times they would carry formula sheets with them, handwritten notes, revision books, and during revision they would repeatedly test themselves, close the book and recall everything mentally and build that strong internal memory structures. So the brain became a storage system for them, a retrieval system, a mental database. Now let's talk about today. The same student thinks very differently. Instead of memorizing it, they say that I'll just Google it, or it's in my phone, or AI will explain it to me instantly. And honestly, this is efficient. Why not? No doubt about it. But something subtle has changed here. If you see, the brain is no longer trained to hold information or to struggle to recall or mentally organize the knowledge. Instead of that, it is now getting trained to locate the information, retrieve it externally, and depend on systems. And this shift is called as cognitive offloading, where the brain reduces effort by outsourcing memory and thinking. At first, it feels like a superpower because everything is accessible, everything is instant, and nothing feels lost anymore. But over a period of time, something important happened. The brain starts thinking, I don't need to remember this. I can always look it up whenever I want to. And slowly, this is affecting the depth of learning. Earlier, the pattern used to be repetition, then we used to repeating that information led to understanding and then memory retention, isn't it? Now it is all about search, copy, forget. What about the mental tolerance? Struggle was a part of learning back in time. Now, struggle feels unnecessary or it feels uncomfortable to our mind. Okay, even after so many revision and all, once we remember, we had that internal confidence coming up. Okay, I know this. Now, there is lack of confidence because you're always dependent on, like, let me check this. I need to browse it. Even for the things we already know, we do that. Now, back in time we also used to remember our friends phone numbers, important dates, basic formulas. Now even simple things like directions, calculations, definitions are instantly outsourced, not because we are less intelligent, but because the system removed the need to retain it in the first place. And this is an important part. We are not losing memory completely, but we are shifting from internal memory. Internal memory is what the brain holds, to external memory, that is what the devices hold for us. And this led to a deeper question: is everything stored outside? Like, if everything is stored outside, then what happens to what is stored inside? The real concern is not about we are forgetting formulas. It is, are we still training our mind to think deeply or just quickly retrieve answers and get done with it? Because memory was never just about storing information. Memory was about building understanding. It was about strengthening the way we think or forming the mental connection. And that is what is quietly changing today. So, this is where persuasion also happens through ease. No one is forcing you to do that, but your brain naturally chooses this choice because the path that led to it had least resistance. So, this connects to a well-known psychological principle called as operant conditioning. So, when a behavior is followed by a rewarding outcome, you are more likely to repeat it. So, in this case, the question that you had in your mind is the problem. Instant clarity from the AI is going to give you mental relief. So, you repeat that behavior again and again, unless and until you don't know how dependent you have grown towards it. Now, let's talk about social engineering. So, this might sound like a heavy term, but let's simplify it. Social engineering is about how systems shape human behavior through interaction design. Think about how comfortable it feels to talk to AI. You don't hesitate, you don't filter your words too much, you don't fear judgment. Now, compare that with real life conversations. We think thousands of times before speaking something. or we worry about reactions, how will the other person react, or you sometimes hold yourself back or hesitate to speak something. So naturally what happens, you start choosing the space where expression is so much easier, responses are becoming smoother, and discomfort is minimal. So suppose someone is going through a confusing situation in a relationship, and instead of talking to a friend, where they might be questioned or challenged, because people will give you perspective, like third person perspective. People like that person will, if he turns to AI, what will happen? AI is going to listen, it is going to respond calmly, and it is going to validate without conflict, no doubt. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to prefer the space. And this is not forced, they are not going to force you. This designed interaction is shaping the behavior, because if you talk to a friend, maybe they will give you a reality check which may not be acceptable to you. That feeling is going to cause you discomfort, and that is why you won't feel like talking to that person again. At the same time, AI is going to validate you. Now let's go back to what we were discussing related to cognitive offloading. So this is something all of us are already doing. We are relying on external tools to reduce our mental effort, right? So to sum it up, cognitive offloading is basically the difference between how we used to remember phone numbers or calculate mentally or sit with problems for a longer period of time. Now we simply store everything in our devices, we calculate instantly and ask for the ready made answers. That's the difference. And AI takes this even a step further. It doesn't just store information for you, it is going to process it for you. Suppose a student is stuck on a problem. Earlier, they would try, they would make mistake, they would ask doubts to their teacher, they would figure it out eventually, and they will learn from it. Now they simply ask AI, they get the ready-made solution, and they move on. It feels efficient, isn't it? But something subtle changes over here. The process of thinking gets shortened. And over time, the brain starts learning that why struggle when I can get the answers instantly. And this pattern links to another important concept in psychology, that is cognitive ease. So your brain naturally prefers clarity over confusion. It would prefer ease over any sort of effort, and it would want quick answers over deep processing. And AI provides you exactly that. So your brain is eventually going to adapt to this. And another important psychological layer that I would like to add over here is the confirmation bias. So this is confirmation bias is basically a natural tendency in which we seek information that supports what we already believe. We all, like, in simple words, we want to hear what we like, right? Imagine you already feel like you're not doing good enough. Now you ask AI something along those lines, and the response is going to be empathetic. It may validate your feeling, you may feel understood by it. But over a period of time, if your thoughts are repeatedly reflected back without any strong challenge, your beliefs will feel more true, right? Even if you're wrong in that situation, you will not have somebody tell the different perspective, isn't it? And this may lead to, not move on in life sometimes when you're dealing with relationship issues, not necessarily with your partner, like a romantic partner, but with your family members, right? You won't be able to forgive easily because it has trained your mind to believe that you are right in all the case scenario. They will not give you a different perspective or a perspective from the other person's point of view, what a real human can do for you, not because it is objectively true, but because it is consistently reinforced. So, if we step a little back and look at it holistically, I'll give you a breakdown of what we have learned so far, that is behavioral analysis. In behavioral analysis, AI is going to learn your pattern, it is going to analyze your behavior, right? Then we learned about persuasive algorithms. Persuasive algorithms are uh, the way it makes you come back to it again and again. Then we learned about social engineering. Social engineering is something that is going to shape how you interact with AI, right? Then cognitive offloading, it is going to reduce the way you're thinking effort, like it reduces your thinking effort. Then we learned about cognitive ease. Cognitive ease is going to make it feel extremely comfortable. And lastly, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is going to reinforce your belief. Individually, these are all psychological processes. But when combined in one system, they create an experience that feels highly personalized, emotionally satisfying, and incredibly easy to rely on. And at this point, I want you to pause and ask yourself something very honestly, like, when I use AI, am I thinking more or am I being depending on it more? Am I exploring the perspectives or am I reinforcing whatever it is going to say or what I already feel? Because awareness begins right here, not in the technology, but in how we respond to it. And if you have this understanding, it is going to set the foundation for what we are going to explore next. That is how these subtle influences can sometimes turn into manipulation techniques. So let's move on to the next part of our today's session, that is manipulation techniques. Now that we have understood how AI interacts with our psychology, let's dig more deeper, like something slightly uncomfortable but very important, that is manipulation. Now, I want to be very clear over here. When we say manipulation, we are not talking about something that is dramatic, something that is controlling us or forcing us to do something, or not someone who is taking over your mind. We are talking about something that is far more subtle, something that influences us, but it looks like as if it is helping us, or like may look like a guidance that feels like support, responses that actually feel right, but they're not questioned. So, what actually happens in manipulation techniques? Let's start with emotion based triggers. So, emotion based triggers, that is, everything begins with an emotion. Because as human beings, we don't make decisions purely based on logic, we make them based on how we feel. So, if you have had a bad day and you feel overwhelmed, maybe even a little alone, you open AI and type that I feel like I'm not doing enough in life. The responses comes that will acknowledge your feeling, it will reassure you, and it is going to give you a sense of comfort. And instantly, something is going to shift inside you. Now, here's what happens: your brain doesn't just register the response, it registers the relief also associated with it. So, next time you feel the same way, you come back again and again and again. And this creates an emotional loop. There is a discomfort, you seek AI interaction, then there is a relief, and you repeat the process. And slowly, without even realizing, your emotional regulation starts depending on an external system. Then comes filter bubbles. So, this happens when the responses you receive start aligning more and more with your existing beliefs, your emotional state, or your perspective. So suppose you are in a conflict with someone and you already feel like they were wrong to you. You frame your question accordingly. The response come in a way that is going to validate your feeling, it is going to support your perspective, and you are going to feel understood. So what is missing in this entire thing? We are missing on the other side of the story. We are missing on the challenge, maybe the confrontation part, or the discomfort of being questioned. If you're interacting with a human, you may be asked like, what wrong did you did over here? What wrong did you do over here? Now imagine this happening repeatedly over a period of time. Your perspective will feel more correct even if it is wrong. Your thinking believes your thinking becomes very less flexible, and your world view is going to become narrower, not because somebody has forced it, but because it was never challenged in the first place. Then comes fear. Fear is one of the strongest psychological drivers, and it often shows up quietly. Think about the kind of questions we ask when we are anxious, like questions like, what if I fail? What if this goes wrong? Or what's the safest option in this situation? Now imagine if you're repeatedly asking these type of questions to AI, the responses you receive may become even more cautious. They will become structured because it is analyzing your behavior, your pattern, the timing at what time you generally come back and ask this type of question. They will also become more risk averse, and slowly your thinking shifts from exploring possibilities to avoiding mistakes. And if you don't do mistakes in life, you're never going to grow, right? A student constantly worried about performance keeps asking for the best or the safest way. Over a period of time, they stop experimenting, they stop taking risks because their decision making becomes fear driven and not growth driven. It is going to give an illusion of security. Okay, now let's talk something that feels completely positive, that is safety. AI does create a space where you are heard, you are not judged, or you can express anything freely. And for many people, this feels like the first time they are truly understood. The same feeling, of course, you'll get if you have a session with a psychologist. I'm sure of that. But someone who finds it difficult to open up in real life, if they start sharing thoughts with AI, things they've never said out loud, they may feel that they are accepted, socially accepted. They feel calm, they feel safe. But if you look at the deeper layer, this safety is extremely predictable, this is controlled, and it is also available, always available. Human interactions are not like real human interactions are not going to be always available. They will involve a lot of misunderstanding, disagreements, and emotions are complex. But the idea of a safe space, like something many people relate to, but they don't always say it out loud. The idea of a safe space, a place where you can, say anything and you're not being judged or not interrupted or not misunderstood. Now think about real life. Even with close people, there's always a layer of hesitation. You might think that, what will they think of me, or will they judge me, or will they change how they see me if I come, like even if I confess something that I've done. So sometimes you hold back. So imagine someone who's dealing with this thought that I feel jealous of my friend's success and I feel guilty about it. Now this is, isn't this an a human emotion, isn't it? But would it be easy to say this out loud to a friend that I'm jealous of you? Probably not. Because you might feel ashamed. You might feel that they will judge you, or you might worry it sounds wrong. So instead, you go to AI and type it out. And what happens? You get a response like, okay, it's so normal to feel this way, and jealousy doesn't make you a bad person. So let's understand where this is coming from. And instantly you feel lighter. Okay, this is not something bad, or okay, this is somewhere I'm feeling understood or I'm accepted. Now, why does this feel safe in the first place? It feels safe because there is no judgment, there is no facial reaction, no interruption, there is no emotional risk. But this safety is controlled, predictable, and always supportive no matter what you do. Real human conversations are not like that. They are going to include disagreements. Somebody who is close to you may react differently in this situation. They may try to understand you or explain you why this feeling is not right. It is going to cause you discomfort. Or maybe an unexpected reaction also may come out. And while that feels harder, that's also where growth happens, isn't it? You're going to learn something from this situation. So, is it wrong to use AI as a safe space? Or does it replace real conversations or support them? Because feeling safe is important, I agree. But if we only stay where it feels easy, we may slowly avoid the spaces that actually help us grow. So slowly what happens, you start choosing the safer space, not because the real relationships don't matter to you, but because they feel a lot harder. Now, let's add one more important factor to this, that is reinforcement. So, every time you feel understood or you get clarity and experience a relief out of it, the brain marks it as okay, yes, this works. So, what do? You repeat it, and this is how habits are formed. Like, like since we are like when we grow mature enough to understand that we must brush our teeth, it has become a habit on repeating, right? Not through force, nobody's forcing us to do it, but through consistent reward. Maybe while teaching how to brush in the morning, parents must have, you know, gifted you something or taught you something with it. Suppose you feel confused, you ask AI, then you feel clear, and next time you don't even try to think, what is this going to do to your mind? Whatever happens, you go directly to AI. If you want to type a message, you seek help from AI. And slowly thinking is becoming optional over here. Like going to AI to get whatever your thoughts are grammatically correct is a different thing, because in that process your ideas, your thinking pattern is already reflected over there. But depending completely is making the thinking process optional, and dependency has become natural. So emotional triggers are going to pull you in, filter bubbles are going to shape what you believe, fear is going to influence what you're seeking, security is going to keep you comfortable, and reinforcement is going to make it a habit. So none of this is going to feel harmful in the moment. In fact, it feels extremely helpful, and that's exactly why it works. So let's ask ourselves these questions like, when I feel low, where do I go first? Or do I seek understanding in the moment or just relief? Am I open to being challenged or only comforted? Like in relationship, the psychology of men is uh, different, and in women is different, right? That is why most of the time there are clashes between the couples. So we address it because their thinking pattern is different. Similar thing happens over here, because manipulation doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like comfort, it feels like clarity, and it slowly becomes dependence. And that awareness is what going to prepare us for the most important part of today's conversation, that how do we stay control. So let's talk about mitigating risks. Okay, we have explored how AI can influence us, sometimes subtly, sometimes powerfully. And the most important question is, what do we do with this awareness? Okay, I am aware that it is influencing me, and what do I do about it? Because the goal is not to step away from technology, not in today's time. That's neither practical nor necessary. So the goal is to stay in control while using it, and to use AI as a tool, not make it slowly into a dependency. So we'll understand that subtle difference between AI as a tool and being dependent on it. So first and the foremost is the foundation, that is the awareness and education. That is the first step, and it is simply knowing what you're interacting with. Because AI can sound intelligent, it can sound emotionally aware, and it can also be deeply understanding, but it is not conscious. It doesn't experience anything emotionally, and it is not personally invested in you. It is simply responding to you based on your patterns, probabilities, and learned language structures, whatever the pattern they have studied about you or the language that you're using. And why this is important? Because when we don't understand something, we tend to trust it more than we should. We rely on it more than we realize. And There was a case that came to me, someone like who shares a deeply personal problem and receives a beautifully worded response. So this person, he felt like this is something that really gets me. But what was actually happening there was like a highly refined response, not a felt experience, in fact. And awareness created a small but powerful distance for that person. And that distance helped him stay grounded. Just with the awareness of it, he stopped using AI for personal reasons. Next point that we need to keep in mind is the critical thinking. So, critical thinking makes us human, and this is our strongest protection. AI can give you fast answers, it can give you clear explanations. Also, it can, give you some confident suggestions. But confidence is not the same as correctness. Suppose you ask for an advice in a conflict, and the response may feel logical, balanced, and convincing. So you accept it. But what might be missing over here? Your full context, your emotional nuances, the other person's perspectives, and the long term consequences that you may have to suffer if at all you decide to go ahead with that decision, isn't it? So, critical thinking here, it means that you're is this the real way to look at this, or what information is missing from this? Have I like given all possible case scenarios over here? Do I agree, or does it just sound good to me? So what is the main difference over here? The main difference is it is about consuming information and engaging with it. Let's talk something about privacy controls, something that we often ignore. So what are we sharing with AI? Every interaction can include personal thoughts, it may include emotional patterns, insecurities, habits, right? Now, someone who regularly vents out about relationships, fears, or self doubt, over a period of time, this builds a pattern of emotional data. AI is going to remember everything. Now, this doesn't mean something is immediately wrong, but it does mean that the system becomes more tailored to you. The interaction feels more personal, and the attachment can even become stronger. So, a simple practice is before sharing something deeply personal, simply pause and ask that, would I say this in a public setting? Am I sharing this to understand myself or just to feel immediate relief? Or is this something I should also discuss with a trusted human? So these are a few questions that you need to ask yourself before sharing anything personal on the uh, internet or AI. Privacy is not just about data, it's about protecting your emotional space. So have like let me give you a more real example that we experience in everyday life. Like, have you experienced this, like you're just casually talking to someone and you say something like, I think I should buy new shoes, or I think we should plan a Goa trip. You don't search it, you don't type it anywhere, and then when you open your phone, suddenly there are ads for shoes, travel packages, and hotel deals. They all start showing up, and your first reaction is my phone listening to me? Now, what's the interesting part over here is that this is not just your experience. Research shows that almost half of people feel this exact thing, and that their phone shows ads based on conversations they have only spoken, not even searched. Or there have been news reports raising concerns about companies exploring active listening technologies for advertising, which actually created a lot of debate around the privacy. But here's where psychology becomes more important than technology, is that your phone is usually or not literally listening to your conversation for ads, but it already has so much data about you that it can predict what you're likely to want. So think about it, like what you search, what you watch, where you go, or what your friends are interested in. Like all of this builds a digital profile of you. So when you say something out loud and then see it on your phone, it feels like it heard me. But in reality, it already knew you well enough to, predict it. So, why does this feel so personal? Because your brain connects two events. I said it, I saw it. And it creates a story around it that it must be listening to me. But the deeper truth is, you are predictable to the system before you are aware of it yourself, because you have been, giving on permissions to your apps and all. So the next time this happens, that did my phone hear me or did it already understand me, there must be a realization that why this awareness matters in the first place. Let me share a short story with you that uh, would give you, like, make it look like how serious this issue is. There was a person who had been dealing with a rare medical condition, and it wasn't something that he had spoken about. He hadn't like searched it online or hadn't discussed it with anyone. But slowly, something strange started happening. His phone began suggesting names of possible conditions or articles related to those symptoms. Doctors, also who specialize in that area or in this field, started popping up on his screen. Even stories of people going through something similar. Now, naturally, he was very shocked about this, and his first thought was, how does my phone know all of this? And then he realized uh, that he had taken few pictures of himself over a period of time where certain physical symptoms were slightly visible in them. And like most of us do, he had given multiple apps access to his gallery without really thinking twice. And here's what gets interesting: those images combined with the usage patterns, app permissions, background data processing can contribute to a system that is identifying pattern. So it may not be the phone that understood him emotionally, but it had access to more information than he was consciously aware of sharing. Now, what's the learning part from this? That every time we download an app, we often click allow access to photos or allow access to data without even pausing. And over time, all of this is going to build a very detailed digital profile of you, not just what we say, but of what we show, what we store, or what we don't even realize that we are sharing. And this is not about creating fear for you, it's about creating that awareness, because influence doesn't always come from what you type. Sometimes it also comes from what you unknowingly reveal about yourself. So next time an app asks you for access, pause for a second and ask that, do I really need to share all this information? Because in today's world, your data speaks even when you don't speak about it. Now let's make this real. And okay, I want you all to watch this video. I want you to observe this child. All right. What did you all notice in this video? Here's a child who is fidgeting with his hands while seeing the phone, right? At first glance, the child is refusing to give up the phone. He's crying when the screen is taken away. He's becoming restless, irritable, and inconsolable. I don't want you to judge the child. I don't want you to blame the parents either. Instead, I want you to observe the intensity of the reaction, the emotional dependence that this child has using the phone, the inability to regulate without the device. That reaction is not just about uh, being in front of a screen, it's about the sudden withdrawal, stimulation, break in emotional comfort. There is loss of control over something that the child has adapted to. And that is why internet AI addiction looks like this in the rawest form. Not always visible in adults, but very clearly expressed in children. And why does this happen? Because when a child uses a device, they get that constant stimulation. They get quick rewards watching videos, sounds, colors, interaction, engagement, right? Now their brain starts associating the screen with pleasure, comfort, and distraction. And when that is removed suddenly, or whenever, even if they are in that process, their brain will start reacting in a certain way. not because the child is misbehaving or something is wrong with him, but because their system is used to that level of stimulation. Now, what becomes more scary in this part is that with AI, it has again started responding, right? This restlessness without our phones or discomfort in silence, the urge to check something, anything. Like we all experience this. The difference is not in the pattern. We may not be doing the same thing that he is doing, but the difference is in how it is expressed. A simple screen can create this level of dependence in a child. Now, what happens when the screen is understanding you, responding to you, or emotionally engaging with you? So, AI has become more than just a tool for us, a source of comfort, a space, escape space for us, and potentially a point of dependence. That is why the conversations like this matter a lot. Awareness doesn't just protect us, it helps us guide the next generation better. Now, when to seek help and how psychologists can support you in this. Before we close, I want to address something that is very important and often overlooked, that how to analyze that this has become a serious problem for us, because there is a difference between using technology regularly, like we started a session with the corporate employee example and the child, but depending on it in a way that starts affecting your life. So, if you notice patterns like if you feel anxious or restless without your phone or AI, if you turn to it immediately when you feel low, confused, or overwhelmed, if you avoid real conversations because this feels easier, or your focus, sleep, or productivity is getting affected, or you feel emotionally dependent on a digital space, then it's not just usage anymore. It's a sign that something deeper needs attention. And I want to say this very clearly, that seeking help is not a weakness, it's awareness. Not many people wonder, like, what will a psychologist even do in this case, right? Let's understand in a practical and relatable way. Psychologist is going to help you understand your pattern. A psychologist doesn't just look at your screen time, they understand why you are turning to it, what emotion you are trying to manage, or what need is being fulfilled when you're looking at the phone. Second thing is, uh, the biggest shift is going to happen when you're going to work on emotional regulation. So instead of escaping emotions, a psychologist teaches you to sit with them, process them, and manage them. This is going to include handling discomfort, dealing with overthinking, also reducing the need for instant relief. Because once you can regulate your emotionals internally, the need to depend on external things reduces automatically. Then they will help you in restoring your independent thinking. If there has been a lot of cognitive offloading, a psychologist can help you rebuild those decision making ability, or confidence in your own judgment. They will develop that tolerance for uncertainty as well. Again, they will help you in creating healthy boundaries with the technology, because it is not about completely removing AI or screens from your life. It is about using them intentionally. So they can help you set clear boundaries, identify emotional triggers, and also create alternative coping strategies for it. So next is supporting children and families, because for children intervention becomes even more important. So here they can make parents understand the behavioral pattern in children, they can create structured routines for them, even reduce dependency without even harsh restrictions, because withdrawal symptoms are clearly visible. If you take it away immediately, they are going to go haywire. So they will help you in rebuilding attention span and emotional balance, because for children it's not just about the screen, it is about their development as well. Now many people hesitate to seek help because they think that it's not that serious a problem, or I should be able to handle it myself, or it's just a phone usage, isn't it? But it is something that is actually affecting your thoughts, your emotions, and your relationships, even your daily functioning. And this is valid enough to seek support. So ask yourself, am I control of my usage, or is it controlling me? Or do I feel stronger mentally, or am I becoming more dependent on that part? Or am I avoiding something by staying constantly engaged or constantly scrolling on my phone? because help is not about fixing you, it is about helping you reconnect with your own capacity, your own clarity, or your own sense of control. So you don't have to figure everything out alone. Sometimes the strongest step you can take is simply choosing to understand yourself better, and with the right support, of course. So we come to an end to today's webinar, and how can you, I'll just address one like question, that is how to create that healthy balance with AI. Is basically you can simply pause before immediately asking questions. Try thinking through the problem first, all by yourself. Question the response. Always question the response instead of simply accepting it. Also limit your emotional reliance on it. Stay connected to real conversations and experiences, because it is about ensuring that you're still leading the process, not just following it. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that AI is powerful support system, but your awareness, judgment, and emotional strength should always remain stronger, because technology should assist your mind, not slowly replace it. Right? So let me just share my screen with you. Yeah. So I want to leave you with one simple question. Are you using AI, or is AI slowly shaping how you use your mind? So there is no right and wrong answer. So just to something reflect on. So do comment in the comment box. And thank you so much for being such a thoughtful and present audience. And once again, a special thanks to the team of Positivity for creating a beautiful platform where conversations like this can happen. Conversations that can go beyond information and actually help us become more aware of ourselves. So, let me walk you through Positivity's platform. It is a platform that is not just about discussions like these. It's a space where mental well being, self awareness, and personal growth are taken way more seriously, and they're also approached with care. So, if anything we spoke about today resonated with you, and if you found yourself reflecting, questioning, or even feeling a little uncomfortable in a meaningful way, that's a good place to begin with. So I also work closely with individuals on areas like emotional regulation, overthinking and anxiety, digital dependence, self awareness, and behavioral patterns. So, if you feel like you'd like to explore this further, understand your own patterns better, or simply have a space to talk and reflect, you can book a session through my section on the platform. This is the homepage of Positivity. You can scroll down. These are the types of therapies that are offered on the platform. You can scroll down below, and you can meet a lot of therapists over here. And that's my page, Jugisha Patil. So you can book a session through my section on this platform. Think of it not as seeking help, but as investing in understanding yourself better. So thank you once again for your time, your attention, and your openness. Take care of your mind, because in a world full of influence, staying connected to yourself is your greatest strength. So good evening, and thank you so much.